Lerner, and today I'm here to talk to you guys about business. The business of photography, the not glamorous, exciting part. The part where you don't have your camera and you're not on set and having a great old time. This is the part where you're down to brass tacks. This is when you're talking about negotiating and pricing and all that kind of stuff that's really important for you to work on, because the better that you can run your business, the more effectively you can run your jobs and you can work with clients. Now, every time you're approaching a client or approached by a client, you have to figure out kind of where your comfort range is as far as pricing and negotiating. You know that if best case scenario, you want this much, and worst case scenario, you'll take that much. You know you want to negotiate somewhere in that range. And obviously you're going to scale your negotiation based on the type of client. Obviously, a huge corporate client is potentially going to have a larger budget for photography than maybe a small business or an artist or somebody who doesn't really have a big photography budget or doesn't even have a photography budget but is willing to invest in their brand or their product and spend that money. Okay? Now, one of the biggest things that you really have to keep in mind is don't ever make your negotiations personal. And at the same time, don't let your client make a negotiation personal. If for some reason the negotiating is going in a way that neither of you can really see eye to eye on and you're way too far apart, then maybe that negotiation isn't meant to be. But if you're relatively close and somehow you get one of those remarks from your client that seems a little bit personal or is directly personal, where you think they're knocking you down, and maybe they're trying to say, hey, you know what? I'm doing you a favor because I've let you shoot me or my product or whatever it is, and they think that you're indebted to them. That's when you're going to get into trouble. So I'm suggesting that make sure that you keep your business transactions equitable, meaning that you and your client feel that you're both getting a good value, that you're getting a good value as far as your compensation, whatever it may be, and they're getting good value as far as what you're delivering. And it doesn't mean that if your scale of pay changes that you should do any lesser of a job, because I feel that no matter what job I'm doing, whether I'm doing a small editorial job or a big fashion campaign, I still want to shoot that to the best of my ability, because my harshest critic is me, and I want at the end of the day to be satisfied with my work. So I'm always going to try to deliver the best that I possibly can. And my compensation is going to change, and that's the nature of this business. There's some jobs that pay really, really well, and there's some jobs that don't. But as long as you're clear with that compensation and you're clear with the equitable exchange that you're going to have, whether it's money or bartering of goods and services, then there's really not a lot to worry about, because it's all taken care of up front. Speaking of that, always try to get your bartering done up front. Don't wait until the shoot's already done. Don't wait until it's don't wait until it's too late, because once the work has been done, it's hard to kind of backpedal and reassign a different value to that work. So think about what it's worth, think about what you're worth, think about your client's budget, and then negotiate from there. Oftentimes, if you're not entirely sure what your client's budget is, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, what's your budget? And there are times when you might be surprised. You might have been thinking, okay, I'm going to charge them X. They come up with their budget, and it's a little better than X. And there you go. So you ended up negotiating yourself a higher rate just by putting it out there. And I think another thing here is be flexible. If you really, really want a job, even if you're not sure if it's going to lead to something else, and you're satisfied with the amount of pay you're going to get, then just do it gladly. Don't worry about, well, I could have gotten more, I could have gotten this, whatever. Ultimately, you will. But if at any point you feel like you're being taken advantage of, or your client is exploiting you, or they're getting the better end of the deal, then maybe it's time to go back to the drawing board with them and sit them down and say, hey, look, this has been great so far. However, I think we need to rework our negotiation here. And when you're at the drawing table, that's when you'll know. That's when you'll know what kind of room there is to negotiate. That's when you'll know how invested they are in working with you and how important you are to them. And if a client ever makes you feel like they're doing you a favor by letting you work for them, That's not a good situation. That's always going to be a situation where there's going to be a huge imbalance, because that person or that company or whoever they are is always going to feel that you are lesser than them, that you are not on par with them, okay? It doesn't matter if you're starting your business. It doesn't matter if you don't have a resume of 20 years experience. If you've got the work ethic, if you've got the work that shows it, if you're professional, if you deliver great work, that's what's going to speak for itself. And if somebody's hiring you for all of those things, then you need to get compensated for what you're worth. So again, remember, negotiate all of your terms up front. Get it all out there. Don't make it personal, ever. And just make sure that you're both getting an equitable exchange, so that neither party feels that one is not getting what they need out of whatever you guys are doing. Because at the end of the day, those types of resentments are going to come back. And you don't want to necessarily lose that client, because there's nothing fun about losing clients. I know I've had to fire clients. It's something that happens almost never, okay? But when a situation gets pear-shaped, and a client decides to take a completely reasonable business negotiation, make it personal, I don't want to deal with that person. I don't want to deal with somebody that's got issues. So my advice to you guys is just to keep it moving. Don't let this stuff bring you down. Don't lose sleep over it overnight, okay? When this kind of stuff happens, nip it in the bud and move on. So that's it for now. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and we'll see you soon.